Hi friends, it's Danielle with Take Care Mama, and today I'm talking about the books I read in April. I don't know what's going on with this lighting here. We're gonna move with it because it's actually May. I think it's May 3rd or 4th as I'm filming this. I'm a little behind. I read 8 books in April. I didn't do my little graphing yet. I've been graphing the pages here. I read 4 physical copies of books and 4 audio. That's been really working for me. It's about 2 books a week, 1 audio and 1 physical, and that's just my jam. So we'll get into it. I would say this was a good reading month for me, but I think probably my least successful reading month rating-wise this year. Although I had a sneaker 5-star at the end. I thought it was going to be a 1 5-star month, but Stephen King snuck in with a novella. In no particular order, the first one is Elatsoe by Darcy Little Badger. I think I gave this a 3-star. This is well, first of all, it's a YA. I don't like YA, and I didn't really realize that until I got it. If I'm being completely honest, I kind of wish I would have DNF'd this book. It's great. It's a fine book. Like, I feel even weird rating it because it's just not my thing. I just don't love YA, but the story is interesting. We are following Ellie. I think she goes by Ellie, but her name is Elatsoe, and it's present day. Her family is part of the Lipan Apache tribe. And she has special abilities passed on through her ancestors where she can raise animal spirits to kind of be a ghost. So, for instance, she had a family dog that passed and she turned it into a ghost, and he kind of follows her and helps her out, kind of her sidekick. Her cousin dies in a car accident, and Elatsoe is convinced it was really a murder, and she and her mom and dad kind of go down to help solve the murder. Magical realism, YA, fine story, good story, just not my thing. Correction, I read 9 books this month, not 8. 9, 5 physical copies, 4 audio. The next physical copy I read, though it is back at the library, was The Year of the Witching. This, I think I also gave it 3 stars. Again, it's magical realism. This is about a girl named Emmanuelle. I love that name. And she lives in a really close-knit community. I still don't understand what timeline this was supposed to be. If anyone knows and wants to help me out, I never really quite understood it. But it's a very secluded community. It feels really old-fashioned, and I don't know if it's because of the timeline of the story or if it's just a really secluded community. But it's cultish-like in that there is a head prophet. They're very religious. There is a head prophet. He has multiple wives through the community. They are young girls, and he brands them when he marries them. There is a forest surrounding the community where the witches live, and they are kind of like the evil force out there, and the community is reverent to God and they are pure. So there's this dichotomy, and Emmanuel's mother actually escaped to the dark forest, got pregnant with Emmanuel, and died in childbirth. And this is all like first couple pages. I'm not spoiling anything. And so I guess this story is about Emmanuel kind of dealing with what she believes. Does she believe in the Christian community where the roles are quite set? Does she believe in the dark forces where her father is from? I don't want to give too much away. So this story to me was a very good story. Like, this author was really good at setting up the story and telling the story. Sometimes I just feel so awkward critiquing books. For me, I'm I'm not new to reading, but I'm new to reading so much. Like I used to read maybe a book a month. And so what's great about that is I'm really honing in on what I like. I am not loving fantasy. It's just not my favorite genre. And I still enjoy this because it was a really great story. But for me, the whole reason I'm saying this is because of the next book. For me, it was just, okay, a nice story. Nothing really drew me in. So I gave it 3 stars. The next one I will talk about is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. So hold that thought about fantasy, because this is fantasy. This is a book about Adeline LaRue, or Addie LaRue. She's born in like the 17th century or 16th century France. And she is about to be forced into a marriage, which she does not want to be in. And she kind of runs away from the wedding and prays to any god who will help her, and kind of accidentally calls on a dark god. She ends up escaping from the marriage, so the devil or the spirit, I don't remember what we quite call him, Antichrist, I don't remember, helps her out in that. But an unknowing part of her deal that she made is that no one will ever remember her. Like her parents don't remember her beloved aunt does not remember her friends don't remember her, so she literally like has to leave her village. And then when she meets people, like she'll go on dates with men, and the next morning they have no idea who the person beside her is. And so it's a very lonely life. And she could just die and give the devil her soul back, but she doesn't want him to win. And so this book spawns up until present day, and she meets someone in present day New York who kind of changes everything for her. So that's the story. It is fantasy. One of the critiques I have about this book is I got really stuck in my head about different things, like just about this deal, because she does have these 10-hour dates with men, but it's not like someone is going to face her for those 10 hours. People look away. People go to the restroom. And I never understood that. And maybe it's just I get too much in my head, but that kind of stuff kind of drives me crazy because I'm distracted. As I said when discussing The Year of the Witching, I'm not super into fantasy right now. And so this is a fantastical story. I did get distracted by thinking about these plot points. However, this writing touched me. I love this author's writing. In particular, her use of metaphors is beautiful. Beautiful. I am a sucker for an amazing metaphor that is just so wild, comparing two things that are so wildly different, but when you read it, you say, yes, that's exactly how it is. And so I gave this a 4 stars. I actually didn't really care about the story that much. The writing really pulled me through. And I know V.E. Schwab has written a plethora of books, but I think this book is most likely for me to love. So I'm just kind of sad that I don't think I'm gonna love her other stuff. I think her other stuff is really on the fantasy side, and I think even a little bit more YA. So I hope she writes more. I mean, she should write what she loves. In a perfect world, I would love her to write more contemporary fiction because she is amazing. I follow her on Instagram, and even her silly Instagram posts bring me to tears sometimes. She is gifted. You have to follow V. Schwab on Instagram. My next 2 physical copies were both 5 stars. The first is Split Tooth. I had to take that to the library. I loved this book. Again, it is a little fantasy, but the writing carried it through. Oh my goodness. This is another Indigenous story, at this time set in Canada. This young girl is growing up. There are a lot of drugs and violence around her. She is coming into her own. She is very spiritual. It reads like a fable. It is prose, it is poetry, side by side. It is beautiful. This is my book. It reminds me of The Alchemist, and I loved it. It's a short book. I think it's less than 200 pages. If you love beautiful poetry intermixed into your novels, I really recommend this. It was easily 5 stars. Beautiful. My last physical book and my other 5-star, I was not expecting, but Stephen King came in for the win. This is actually a collection of 4 novellas called Different Seasons. I read the first one called Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, which later became a famous movie. And this is a cool book because each novella corresponds with a season, and Rita Hayworth, Shawshank Redemption, is spring. So I'm gonna take this back to the library and pick it up in the middle of summer for the next novella. I know that Shawshank Redemption is a super popular movie. It won a ton of awards. I still haven't seen it. We're gonna watch it this week. And I knew nothing about this. This is so good. This is very short. I think it's like 100 pages. It's just a wonderful story. It's not horror at all. I think sometimes we think Stephen King only writes horror, and that is far from the truth. This is just a good story. It's about 2 men in the prison system. The narrator has been there for years, and he's kind of the con man of the prison and gets the inmates the illegal things from the black market. And then this other man comes in, and we kind of wonder if he is really guilty of his crime. He's accused of killing his wife and the man she was having an affair with. And something is kind of special about this man, not in a magical way. He just has this confidence and calmness to him that is really, I guess, kind of special, especially considering the setting. And I don't want to say too much about it because A, you might already know the story, and B, it's just so good. I don't want to say anything. Stephen King is so good at storytelling, and there were so many lessons in this story about persistence and having hope, and one small action a day adds up to a lot. I was very inspired by this book. I really recommend it, especially if you are interested in Stephen King, you're not so sure about the horror and the gore. If that's you, this is a really good book to start with because it's only 100 pages. It's a very straightforward story, and you might love it as I did and want to read other Stephen King. And by the way, you can find many more that are not horror, or you might love it so much that you might want to try some more of his classically known novels. The other thing about Stephen King is he can be a little long-winded at times, and so I really love this novella. It forced him to edit, and I'm really excited to watch the movie. Okay, 4 audiobooks. The first, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster by Bill Gates. As I'm filming this, it was announced that he and Melinda Gates are divorcing after, I think, 27 years of marriage. It makes me really sad. I really like this book. I learned a lot. It was a lot of information, and what I like about this is Bill Gates became a very rich man because of the capitalist system. He made his money in the capitalist market. I don't think anyone can deny that. And so when a capitalist is sounding the alarms, guys, we need to do something, and we need government help to do this because there is no incentive right now for private companies, which, by the way, are the innovators and are going to be crucial to helping solve this problem. But with that being said, there's no incentive for them to do that right now. So we do need big government to come in and set standards to, I guess, force these companies to innovate. When a capitalist is sounding those alarms, I think the message can kind of go out to wider people. I think there's a tendency to politicize the environmental crisis. I think having a person like Bill Gates write something like this can widen the net of people who receive the message. With that being said, I know Bill Gates is very controversial right now, especially with people who choose not to vaccinate. So I know that kind of muddies the situation, but I found this helpful. I learned a lot. I call myself passionate about the climate crisis, and at the same time, I feel stupid talking about it because it is such a big problem. And there are so many moving parts. And I do think that this book gave me some confidence to have conversations because I understand it in a more complete way. The other great thing about this is basically he's like, we are screwed, but he's also confident we can fix it. And so, I don't know. I really recommend it. I gave it a 4 stars. The next one is Jim Carrey's novel/memoir situation. Jim Carrey Memoirs and Misinformation. I gave this a 2. I probably should have DNF'd this as well. Going into this, I knew that this book was going to have a very small audience who loved it. And most people would just not pick it up or hate it, set it down. But the small people would love it. And I thought I was going to be a part of that small group because I really liked Jim Carrey. Nope. I was unfortunately wrong about this. I did not like this book at all. I thought it was going to be more of like kind of cheeky. Did this really happen, or is this part of the fiction of the book? To me, it was more like all fiction or mostly fiction. And if not, whoa, it was wild. Like apocalypse, aliens, I think were in there. It was just, I mean, I believe in aliens. Don't get me wrong. This was just too much for me. It was a lot, way out there, way out there. There were some funny things. He makes fun of some celebrities. There's a lot of Kelsey Grammer laughs in there, which I found really funny. I did laugh out loud. So I did enjoy some parts of this. But yeah, this book definitely is not for everyone and is not for me. The last 2 are more like self-help books. The first one, Reinventing You by Dorie Clark. I thought Dorie Clark was a male this whole time. I've read another one of her books before called Entrepreneurial You, which I got a lot out of. And so I wanted to read his other book. I got the audio. The narrator was a female. The narrator is the author, Dorie Clark. I don't know. That just kind of blew my mind. I don't know. This was a good book. It's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. But if you are a career person and trying to kind of change industries or trying to get a new job somewhere else, this might be helpful for you. There is a lot of practical advice, and that's what I loved about her first book. Some of these self-help books are just like, ooh, big ideas and dreams, go for it. But she actually gives you tactical advice. So I did like that. I don't know. 3 stars. It was good. It wasn't something I loved. And then the last one, kind of the same story, Purple Cow by Seth Godin. I read Seth Godin's newest book earlier this year, and the name is escaping me. The Practice. It's called The Practice, and I loved it. He's written so many books, and so I wanted to pick up another one. This one happened to be on Libby as an audio. It's called Purple Cow. It's basically saying that to differentiate yourself, you need to be a purple cow. You need to niche. You need to stand out. And it was good. It is dated. I don't know how old this book is. Probably not that old, but just in today's fast-paced society, it really showed its age. And so that was a little distracting to me. I feel like nonfiction has a shorter lifespan than let's say, a novel. I don't know. Let me know if you ever get that feeling where you are more distracted in nonfiction because the facts and the examples they give you are from 20 years ago, and so it can just be a little distracting. And I think he also talked about like the newest technologies that today aren't even around anymore. So that was it docked a couple points from me, but I really like Seth Godin. I definitely still want to read more of his books, and I think about the practice all the time. I'm reading something right now. I'm reading Atomic Habits for the month of May, and they really vibe together and say similar things, and I'm thinking about the practice as I'm reading Atomic Habits, and I love that synergy that happens. So those are my books for April, and I hope you liked this. I would love to know what you read in April. I would love to know what you are reading right now, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye.